Good evening, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, parents, and community leaders. Welcome to the first edition of Grand Boulevard Prevention Coalition, which is a drug-free communities program. The Grand Boulevard Coalition is a coalition of community stakeholders, NFPs, which is non-for-profit organizations, government entities, and law enforcement groups in the Grand Boulevard community that have come together to develop strategies around underage drinking and marijuana use among teens in the Grand Boulevard community. If you're not familiar with the Grand Boulevard boundaries, the boundaries of Grand Boulevard are 51st Street on the south, 35th on the north, east to the Dan Ryan, and strike that, west to the Dan Ryan, I'm sorry, east to Cottage Grove, and then on 39th Street up to, well, east to Cottage Grove. So those are the Grand Boulevard boundaries. Some of our community partners are Recovery 2000, Ms. Izetta Walton, who's the executive director, Institute for Positive Living, Reverend Maurice Coverson, the Bronzeville Community Clubhouse, Mr. John Cook, Centers for New Horizons, Ms. Crystal Hamilton is the executive director there. Greater Harvest Missionary Baptist Church, where Pastor Thomas is the pastor. We also partner with the 2nd District Police Department, and we have a new commander, Commander Boyd. We've only met once, but before that we had Commander Crystal King Smith, who is now transferred to another district or entity within the Chicago Police Department. And so, again, we're talking today, we're going to be talking about drug-free communities. I just want to give a shout out to all the conscious community workers, as well as the police, everybody who played a part for 2 days. We should really something to celebrate. For 2 days, we've had no murders. The 3rd or the 4th, there were no murders registered in the city of Chicago, according to the police department statistics. And as I know that the police would like to take credit for that all by themselves, I know for a fact that there were a lot of people, men and women, who work in the communities, talking to folks, attempting really hard to get them to put their guns down and keep them down. Not necessarily want to do anything to publicize it, because in many cases for them, they feel like if someone knows that they can stop something, they can start something, and then they become a target or a threat. That is of their mindset. I'm just glad they were able to do it in conjunction with the police, and we had no murders in the city of Chicago on the 3rd and 4th, and so that is very commendable. Certainly, excuse me, very grateful for that to have happened in this city. But I just wanted to start with that, and I guess kind of something to be jubilant and happy about. Though in Grand Boulevard, in the surrounding areas, we've had an uptake a bit in crime and violence with shootings. So that's the unfortunate downside. So there were 7 people shot, but none of them were fatal. And even that number was low. I mean, we had no one shot at all, but there certainly was no murders on the 3rd and 4th anywhere in the city of Chicago that's been documented. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we're talking drug-free communities today. This is a live show. You can join us in it here at CAN TV, 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060. This is a live interactive show. So if you have any questions or comments about the subject matter, today we're talking about drug-free communities, and specifically underage drinking and drugging in our community. And we've held over the past 3 months, well, strike that, over the past 4 months, the Grand Boulevard Coalition has had a couple of seminars as we've dealt with opioid use and the opioid crisis in our community. And our next opioid crisis symposium is going to take place on July 28th from 11 to 1 p.m. at IIT campus at 10 West 35th Street, on the campus of IIT College, which is where our offices are located. We are located at 10 West 35th Street on the 9th floor, 9, strike that, on the 10th floor. 10008C1 is where our offices are located. And so we have, at this opioid symposium, we are going to have some elected officials on talking about what resources are available to the African American community to deal with the opioid crisis. As many of you may not know, that the opioid situation in our community is also has risen. In many cases, the African American community, outside of selling it, heroin or opioids, don't get the type of attention as other communities does by way of prevention. Right, and so we have quite a few individuals from our community who are engaging in using, who are addicts in a sense, and use opioids as their drug. And so what we in our attempt from the GBC standpoint, the Grand Boulevard Coalition, is to kind of heighten this by bringing on providers who are offering up levels of treatment and counseling for individuals who are struggling with the use of opioids. And I will tell you, amazingly enough, there are a lot of teens. And I know traditionally we may think about intravenously using of drugs, but a lot of it in the narcos, the pills, and as some of you guys may or the young people call them mollies, but they got quaaludes and all other type of pills that young people are ingesting as a form of getting high. So again, we are going to be dealing with our third phase of this opioid crisis in the African American community by bringing on key stakeholders who are elected officials, legislators, to help us with addressing this issue. And so I'm hoping that on July the 28th, many of you, or those of you who are out there watching, would join us in this discussion, or come and participate and lend your voice to this issue that is taking place in our community. The opioid crisis, just like the usage of mollies, of marijuana, I meant to say, by young people is still the same. And in many cases, folks say that marijuana is a gateway drug to other drugs, to use much stronger, stronger drugs. And so Grand Boulevard Prevention Coalition has been around for the last 5 years. Providing this type of services to the Grand Boulevard community by way of education. And again, coalition members, we meet on a monthly basis to discuss these issues concerning our community. So I'm grateful to have been a part of the group, a member on the board. We were going to be joined by our president, Mr. William Penn, but some other things precluded him from being able to be here. And I know that you guys can see this book. I brought this in, which is a little bit different, but I'm just curious that have many of you guys got this updated gang book. It's the gang book by the Chicago Crime Commission. Not necessarily, it's not for sale. It's interesting though. Oh, that's back to the opioid crisis. So it's not a book that is for sale, but they give it to law enforcement agencies, community organizations, to. It's hard for me to explain why. I mean, I don't know. Of course, there are a lot of individuals from this city. It's mainly people from the city of Chicago that they say that are a part of street gangs. That is in this book. It's the 2018 version, and there was one I think in 2012 that they put out. But I brought it in to want to slightly have a discussion about. One of some of the people in this book I know who may have once been in the gang, but they've went back to college and they've gotten bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. They are some of the conscious community workers that I talk about here today that are working in the community who helped, in my opinion, played a key part in these last 48 hours with no murders in the city. But you get this book and you pass it around to law enforcement and to other community organizations and tell them so that they can be informed, but informed about what? I mean, so I'm just, my point is, I don't know what's the reason behind creating a document like this. And I know there's letters in here from the Attorney General, there's letters from, it's interesting, the police superintendent wrote a letter praising the book, but he didn't sign his name, which I found to be very interesting. But there are various city and other government entities who wrote and given this book kind of accolades. And I'm not here to totally speak disparaging about it. My question is, does it do more harm to individuals who've turned their lives around than it helps educate the public? Because that's what they claim that this tool is for. It is a book that the non-for-profit organization had created from getting various records from various law enforcement agencies and intel. And they put this together and called it a game book, and they want the public to be educated about who these individuals are. But I say again, what is the point of redemption for anyone? And does this book do more harm than it does good? So that's all that I necessarily have to say about the game book. And unless one of you guys have an opinion about it, I necessarily won't speak on it again. I really want to push the July 28th event that we're going to have dealing with the opioid addiction crisis and in our community from an African American standpoint, because many cases in our community we get overlooked by way of treatment and support and counseling for this drug and for opioids. I think that many people, even when it comes down to be frank with you, in many cases, marijuana usage, even among teens, there's very few dollars that is available for counseling services for teen drug addicts, right? And then let's not even get into the issue of alcohol addiction that takes place among teens. And we've talked about this before. Many young people born with the alcoholic fetal syndrome, as many people will say. We're talking prevention today. This is a live show. Give us a call, 312-738-1060. I see we have a caller. Caller, you on the air.
Yes, sir. This is Ray. I called most every week last year.
Ray, how are you, man?
Oh, fine. And you're looking good, thank God.
Well, you know, I put on a few pounds, but yeah, other than that, I feel great.
Well, that's better than losing 100, isn't it?
Well, I can stand. Ray, to be honest with you, I think I'm good for about 75-pound reduction.
Oh, my goodness. Then we'd have nothing to talk about. Listen, about that book you're talking.
Yes.
About the guys that, that went back to college and stuff like that. Well, maybe the police department will have the nerve, the sense, to write a book, again, about the guys that they put down and then put them back up.
Yeah, I don't know that they will do that. And go ahead, Ray, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. They'll put somebody down, but they won't put anybody up. And that's what's wrong with the Chicago Police Department. Now they did, I guess, a great job with the rest of the community and guys like you, but no shootings, no deaths, no nothing. Thank God.
No, we had shootings. We had, I believe there were 8 shootings, but this has been the first time for a long time, 48 hours in Chicago with no murders.
Well, I guess they learn how to run faster. I don't know. But anyway, listen, great show as always, but let's hope that we can have every weekend nobody getting shot at, nobody getting killed, And then Chicago, that's a That's the guys like you
Yeah.
want. And that's I'm 70-year-old man, Mexican American, Vietnam veteran, fought for this great country. Let's make it great again. And there's only one way. We all have to stick together in this.
Well, I agree with you, and Ray, to your point, let me just say this to you, and thank you for your call, Ray. Listen, what I'm saying is that it takes everybody, the police, good police, community people, parents, business owners. It takes everybody to play a role in changing the dynamics in our community. So I agree with you 100%, wholeheartedly.
Thank you. I'll call next week again.
Sure thing, Ray. Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, so I agree with you. I agree with you, Ray, 100%. But I don't think that the police are going to go back and well, the police didn't write this book, and it didn't look like the superintendent wanted to put his signature in the letter. But that's a matter of semantics. My point to you is this: that I just think unfairly. Listen, there are folks who are members of street organizations, street gangs, whatever you want to call them, that exist in this city. And that's just a reality that we have. But then there are also individuals who were a part of that life, who changed their lives and are now trying to give back to the community, and they're actively working trying to give back to the community. And I don't think that a person should be continue to be villainized because of what some past affiliations. I think that and then some people who are not necessarily affiliated with them end up in this book, and it causes them irreparable damage. So I just think that, I know individuals, key individuals, who were once affiliated, and they're working in the community today. And in fact, their work has paid off, because I'm telling you, the public, that it was just not 1,600 police officers on the street at one night who didn't have, is why we didn't have a murder. I'm letting you know that right now, a fact that there were men and women who many of you probably would never see, but have the relationships with some of these guys who are shooters in our community. And I know that they've been actively engaging with them to put their guns down, to find a better way. And again, it's going to take, the government is going to take the private business sector, is going to take all of us to work with these individuals to keep our communities safe. So, we talk about drug-free communities, we need to be also talking about crime-free communities. There are other communities in this city where other people live and they have zero crime or very little, and God forbid they don't worry about going out and somebody getting shot. And so, when I look out of my door, that sometimes is the worry, for, do you let your children go out and play? I mean, my neighbor, doesn't let her children, they can't even play in the backyard. And that's a terrible state to be in. But I mean, she doesn't, they're out the house in the car and they go drive wherever they go, where she takes them, her and her husband, for them to release their attention as young people. She will not let them play in the neighborhood that we live in, and that's because of fear. And that's a sad place to be. I just refuse to be. So I refuse to live in that state. And I live in a community that I'm a fabric of, a part of, and I just refuse to be held hostage by anybody in my community. And so even when we deal with this whole situation of our communities, in certain parts of our community, where you walking down the street and these guys hollering loud, no one, I don't believe in good conscience. I don't want to walk past it, right? I don't want to see it. I don't want to expose my children to it. But in cases, they have to hear it, because they catch the red line, they catch the green line, and they ride public transportation in some cases when going to school. So it is a fight, but it's going to take all of us. And just like with this show, having coalitions, community partners, I mean, real block clubs and such will help, because I contend there's somewhere, if you believe statistics, which I don't, there's, let's say there's somewhere between 800,000 and 1 million black people who live in the city of Chicago. Now, they may not all be counted as a part of a census, but let's just go with that number. I contend that most of the crime and mayhem that takes place in our community is probably happening by 1.5% of the people. So let's just say it's 80, let's just go with a number, 95,000 people spread out across Chicago may be committing some type of crime and harassment upon other folks now. But you still have, get this, 700,000 people of like-mindedness, right, who live in community. So why would you allow a minority group to terrorize your community and not say anything? I'm just saying that we need to form more coalitions as communities. You need to start block clubs, which are non-for-profit organizations. You need to start, go to your local elected official, and I missed ours in Grand Boulevard, who's very supportive of the work that we do, is the alderman in the 3rd Ward. Alderman Pat Dow, and we will look to have her on the show soon, and our state senator Matty Hunter. Go to your local elected officials and then start, ask for resources to start block clubs, community clubs, business associations, where like-minded residents are coming together to deal with issues in their community. Trust me, I'm telling you, it works. And then you can call CAN TV and get you one of these shows so that you can spread the good news about what you're doing in the community. I don't want to come on here and say that there's gloom and doom in our communities, even though we're struggling. I mean, we are at the bottom, and I'm talking about African Americans at the bottom of the economic barrel here socially. Our schools are crumbling. With all that being said, there's still a level of resilience among us and our people, and all we have to do is come together and find like-minded people and form coalitions and begin to work on solving the problem. I mean, some of these young people can be saved. And I always say, listen, I'm not going to get mad at anyone who's out there doing work, because if you save one life, you've done enough. That's just my mantra on things. If you save one life, if you help one person change their circumstances for the better, then you've done good in my eyesight. Well, we're coming to the end of the show. I got to wrap it up. It's been a great show. I hope to see you back here next week on Thursday. You have been watching the Drug-Free Communities. It's brought to you by the Grand Boulevard Coalition. And we are located at 10 West 35th Street on the 10th floor. And until now, next week, use your common sense. Peace.